may be seated. State next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Victor Rojas Acevedo. I understand he's not back from lunch yet, Your Honor. So the state will call Alicia Aragon.
Okay. Aragon, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a seat. My bailiff is going to get a microphone on you, and then I'll have you state your name, please. Go ahead and slide it closer to the other microphone as well, and then state your name.
Alicia Aragon.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, or excuse me, good afternoon, Ms. Aragon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
You need to speak a lot louder than that, please. Thank you.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Can you tell us, do you know the defendant in this case, Fabian Gonzales?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see him here in the courtroom today? Can you tell us an article of clothing that he might be wearing?
A gray shirt.
Okay, so
A gray shirt.
if you see all these people around here, they all need to hear you. I need you to speak louder. Answer the question again, please.
A gray shirt.
And where is he sitting?
To the left of me.
Your Honor, can the record reflect that the witnesses identify the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
Ms. Aragon, how do you know the defendant? Were you in a relationship with him?
Yes. Well, not in a relationship, but
Were you dating him?
kind of, yes.
Okay. Was this in August of 2016?
Yes.
Okay. How did you meet him?
Facebook.
And how did that occur?
We just came across each other, I guess.
Okay. Where did you first meet him?
Like physically or on
Yeah,
Facebook?
physically.
At a office on Mateo at a blood bank.
Okay. And do you know how long you were in a relationship or in a dating relationship with him?
Probably a few weeks. A month, maybe.
During that time, do you recall going to a relative's house, one of his relatives in the South Valley?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember his name?
I don't.
Did you get out of the vehicle?
No, sir.
Who was driving the vehicle that day?
He was.
Whose vehicle was it?
Mine.
And do you know, did he go to that relative's house for legal or illegal activity?
I have no idea.
Was there another time, well, and I should ask you, at the time, where were you living?
With a friend.
And where was that located, roughly?
On Louisiana and Trumbull.
And what was your friend's name?
Shorty.
How long had you been living with Shorty?
Probably about a year.
Was there a night when the defendant visited you with his cousin, Jessica Kelly?
Yes.
And before that night, did you know Jessica Kelly?
Yes, sir.
How did you know her?
I was in prison with her.
Were you close to her when you were in prison, or was
No.
she just an acquaintance?
She was an acquaintance.
And so you've been to prison?
Yes.
Do you have drug convictions?
Yes.
Felony drug convictions?
Yes.
So they came over that night. Tell us about that night. What time of night was it?
It was probably about 10, 11 o'clock.
Okay. And were they there for very long?
No.
While they were there, were they doing legal or illegal activity?
We all were.
You were all doing what?
Illegal activity.
Okay. How did they seem together? Did they seem, because you said they were cousins, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Were they treating each other like cousins? Did they seem close? Did they
Yes.
seem far apart?
No, they seem pretty close.
What makes you say that?
Just by the way they would talk to each other, I guess.
They seem to know each other very well.
Was that a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the defendant in this case take you to an apartment in Albuquerque on the west side?
Yes, sir.
And how did you get into that apartment? Did he have a key?
No, he went for a key.
Where did he go?
To a Smith's.
Do you know who he got the key from?
I don't.
Do you know who he was staying with and whose apartment it was?
I didn't at the time, no.
Okay. Was it Michelle Martin's apartment?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So you went to the apartment with him. Was anyone home?
Nobody was there.
Did you go inside the apartment?
Yes, I did.
What was he there for?
To change his clothes.
How long were you there?
About 10 minutes.
And where did you go in the apartment?
I sat in the balcony outside.
While he got his clothes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know about how long this was before Victoria Martens' murder?
I'm going to say a few days.
Do you know if Michelle Martens knew that you were there?
I don't think so.
What makes you say that?
Well, there was nobody home, and I never made contact with the female.
Okay. And you were dating the defendant at the time?
Yes,
And so was Michelle. Is that right?
I guess so.
And so it's fair to say she may not have known that you were there?
I don't think she knew I was there.
So when the defendant and Jessica Kelly were over at Shorty's apartment, how were they acting? Were they acting normal? Were they acting strange?
They weren't acting strange. They just acted like normal people.
Okay. And do you know how long that was before Victoria's murder?
I'm going to say a few days.
A few days. Okay. Your Honor, may I have a moment?
You may. Yes, ma'am. Yes, new pen. Anybody else need a new pen or notepad? Everybody's good? Okay.
Sorry, Your Honor.
That's okay.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Aragon, I've handed you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 275,
Okay.
and that exhibit contains some messages. Who were those messages sent by, and who were they sent to? Can you tell from that document?
They were sent to me from Fabian.
And starting with the middle one there, Can you tell us the time and the day?
It was August 23rd at 10:26 p.m.
Okay, and what did the defendant say to you?
Answer me and get over here now.
Did you know what he meant by get over here? Did you know where here was?
No, I don't.
Did you know where he was at the time?
No, I don't.
What does the next message say?
Or I will go looking for you.
And how about the next one?
Where are you at?
And can you turn the page and leave the last one?
And don't think I won't find you either. You're mine and no one else's.
You said you were in a dating relationship with him for about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Was that a serious relationship?
No,
You know why he could say you're mine and no one else's?
I don't.
Was that the tone of those messages? Was that typical of how he would contact you?
Not from what I knew of him, no.
Did it strike you as being possessive?
No, sir.
Did it strike you as being unusual for him?
A little bit.
Did you answer him that night?
I believe so. I think I told him I was asleep and it was late.
Your Honor, may I have one?
You may.
Ms. Aragon, you said that you went to a relative's house with Mr. Gonzales?
I believe he said it was his brother's house.
You said it was his brother's house?
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the South Valley?
Yes.
Your Honor, pass the witness.
Okay. Cross.
Ms. Aragon, you were in prison with Jessica Kelly and her sister Crystal.
Yes, sir.
Now, even when Jessica was smoking meth, she seemed like a normal person, didn't she?
She did.
You could never imagine her hurting a child even when she was tweaking.
From not what I knew of her, no.
She was good around children, wasn't she?
Yes.
And you met Fabian Gonzales through Jessica. She introduced you.
No, sir.
Sounds like you met on social media. Was Jessica involved in when you saw him in person? Was she part of that, or?
Not the first time.
Okay. You were kind of dating him, but he was never your boyfriend, was he?
No.
And you had been a common law wife of Rocky since 2011, on and off. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Did Rocky know that you had seen Fabian?
No, sir.
Now, on the night of this text, it had been about a week since you had last seen Fabian, hadn't it?
I'm not too sure on the time.
All right, but it had been, there was a period of time where you didn't see Fabian.
Yes, sir.
And you knew he was living with a woman and her child.
No, sir, I don't. I didn't know that.
Well, do you remember in your pretrial interview back in 2018 in February, do you remember saying on page 13, I don't know who he was with. I know he's with another female at that time.
But that doesn't mean that,
What?
just because he was another female, don't mean that I knew it was his girlfriend or he was living with somebody else.
Okay. But you knew he was sleeping with another female, right?
No, I didn't.
He told you he was living with someone and that she had children.
If he did, I don't recall, sir.
Okay. Now, he had not been responding to your phone, to your messages, or anything, had he?
There was a period of time when he didn't.
And it was over 24 hours since the last time you tried to contact him. There was like a full day there before he accepted your friend request, right?
I'm not too sure.
Well, how long do you remember it being between when you suggested that he friend you on Facebook and when he accepted your Facebook friend request?
It might have been a week or two, maybe.
Okay, so it had been some time. And just 1 minute before he said, answer me and get over here now, he accepted your friend request and then sent you a text following it. Is that right?
I don't recall.
Now, when he said, you're either mine or no one else's, how did you take that?
I was like, it was whatever, I guess.
Say again?
It was whatever.
Okay, so you didn't take that seriously.
No.
And you didn't take get over here now too seriously at 10:26 either, did
No,
you?
no, sir.
Did you think he was threatening or being violent?
No.
He's never struck you as a violent person, has he?
No.
He's never been violent with you in any way.
No, sir.
He never threatened you.
No, he's never threatened me.
That was probably the only time he ever stepped out of line, is when he texted you in that way.
Yes, sir. That was the first time.
Of course, you never did go get him that night, did you?
No, sir.
Now, you were also texting about power nozzles. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, a power washer?
Yeah, power washer.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess your roommate Shorty had bought a power wash nozzle, and Fabian thought maybe his uncle might be interested in it for his car shop. Do you
That's
remember that texting?
Yes, sir.
And then one of you texts about to go to bed, I'm really tired. Was that you to him or him to you, if you remember?
I don't remember.
And your last text was love you before you went to sleep, something like that.
Okay. I don't
All
remember
right.
that.
But this wasn't a serious relationship. You were just...
No, it wasn't serious.
That's all I have.
Redirect?
Your Honor, may we have 1 minute, please?
You may.
And may we approach?
Come on up.
Ms. Aragon, what was your phone number back in August of 2016? Do you remember?
I don't.
Did it start with 710?
It might have.
If you saw the phone number, would that refresh your recollection?
No.
If the defendant in this case had a contact in his phone that said Alicia and Alicia Aragon and had a phone number of 505-310-7055, would that have been you?
It might have been.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Aragon, I've handed you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 258, and it's turned to the second page. Starting at the top of that page, could you read the date and the time for the calls to 310-7055?
8/21 of 2016 at 4:56.
Okay. And going down that page, do you see a number of different calls to 310-7055?
Yes, sir.
And specifically on 8/21 at 23, if I may approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Starting at 22:55:05, do you see calls from Fabian Gonzales' phone, 589-1360 to 310-7055?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, on August 20th, which was a Saturday, do you recall having a text conversation with the defendant about asking him to get you black?
I don't. I don't remember.
And what is black?
Heroin.
Do you recall ever asking the defendant to get you black during that time frame between August 20th and then August 23rd?
I don't remember.
If you saw texts on the defendant's phone, do you think that would refresh your recollection?
Maybe.
I need you to speak louder. So you're not talking to him, you're talking to the other people in the courtroom. I need you to speak louder. Can you answer that question again, please?
Maybe.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Your Honor, may we approach the bench?
Come on up.
Ms. Aragon, could you read those to yourself? Don't read them out loud. And see if those refresh your recollection.
I don't remember them.
Did the defendant call you babe in his text to you frequently?
He might have.
Were you sleeping with the defendant?
Yes.
May I have a moment?
You may.
Ms. Aragon, Mr. Ahrens suggested that you were not in contact with the defendant immediately before the day of the 23rd. Looking at those phone calls on states 258, would you agree with me that you were in contact with him leading up to the day of the homicide?
Can you repeat that question again, please?
Yes. Were you in contact with the defendant, in this case, Fabian Gonzales, in the days leading up to August 23rd?
Yes, I was.
Thank you. No further questions?
All right, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may step down, thank you. Next witness?
The state calls Victor Rojas Acevedo.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Have a seat. We're going to get a microphone on you. State your name.
Victor Rojas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ross.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Jarvis.
I just have a few questions for you today. So can you tell me, were you living in the Arroyo Villas apartments in 2016, in August of 2016?
Correct.
And what apartment were you living in?
I believe it was the 806.
806? Okay. And who was living there with you?
My wife and my two kids.
And what's your wife's name?
Christina Torres.
Did you have did your sister-in-law visit you that month?
Yeah, she was staying with us, I think for a day or two.
Did she stay the night during which you ended up calling, or during which you ended up seeing the police the next morning?
Correct.
Were you next door to Michelle Martens?
Correct.
That's where you lived?
Correct.
Did you know Michelle?
I saw her a couple of times.
Okay, so just in a neighborly way, not
Yes.
friends, but just acquaintances?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you do for a living, sir?
I have a small business of landscaping maintenance.
Okay, were you doing landscaping and maintenance around that time?
Yeah, I used to work for a company.
Okay, what kind of hours did you work with?
We would start at 7 and then we would finish, depending on the day, sometimes we would finish between 3 and 4.
Okay, so So you worked all day long?
Yeah, pretty much. And then after that, I would work extra sometimes.
Okay. And then you also, how old were your kids at that time?
One of them was 4, and the other one was going to be almost 1.
Did you know Victoria Martens?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see her around the apartment quite a bit?
Yeah.
What was your impression of her?
Little girl, happy.
Yeah. Okay. Did you talk to her much?
No, I probably maybe once or twice we crossed a word, a hi, bye, that's about it.
Okay. Well, you were out fairly early in the morning and then...
Yeah, correct. I would take off like around 6:30 every morning, and like I said, would be back like around 4:30, or sometimes I would get home like around 8.
And what about Fabian Gonzales? Did you see him before August 23rd, before the day of Victoria's murder?
Yes, I saw him. I want to say it was a weekend because I had to work a weekend, and then when I went back home, I saw him one time.
Okay. And what was he doing at that time?
I remember that I arrived from work. It was still daytime. He was in Michelle's car. He had the door open, and I was trying to park, but I was having trouble parking because he had the door open. So I put my window down the passenger side, and I told him, "Hey, do you mind?" So he closed the door, and he said, "I'm sorry." And then I parked, and then went upstairs.
Was that a fairly normal interaction?
That was the only time that I actually talked to him.
Okay. Let's talk about August 23rd. Did you go to work that day?
Yes.
Do you remember about what time you got home?
Yes, it had been between 4 and 4:30.
Okay. So when you were going, did you stay in the car for a while, or did you go back into your apartment right away?
No, I went to my apartment right away.
Did you encounter anyone on the stairs?
Yes, when I was going up my stairs, I noticed a female that Jessica was standing at Michelle's door, and when I was about to go into my apartment, she said hi, and I said hi, and then went inside.
Okay. So no conversation?
No.
Just hello to each other?
Yeah, that's it.
How did she strike you? I mean, it sounds like a fairly quick encounter.
Yeah, because I looked at the door, and it was a person I've never seen in my life, so I guess she said hi, and I just responded hi, and I went inside the apartment.
Did you have any concern about her being there, or did you think she belonged there?
Yes, I was just concerned because like I said, I have never seen him before, so it was just a little bit awkward for me to see someone that doesn't belong in that area.
Does it stick out in your memory? Is that why?
Yeah.
Now tell us what you did after you got home that day. Did you go back out again later? I
was inside. My wife went to the groceries, so I stayed home with the kids.
Okay. And how long was your wife gone to get groceries?
Don't remember exactly what time, but I want to say an hour or so. She got back home, and I asked what happened, if they were okay, because she lived with my sister-in-law, her sister, and she told me that they had a flat tire. So, what?
Okay, so they had to fix the tire. That's why they took such a long time at the store.
Correct.
Did you go out and look at the tire?
Yes, I just, well, not exactly when they went back inside because they went with the groceries upstairs, and I believe they made dinner, and then we ate, and then later on the day we decided to take the kids to the park.
Okay, so they got back from the store, you had dinner. What time do you think you went to the park?
I want to say between 6 and 7.
Who went to the park?
Christina, Monica, the kids, and myself.
That's a lot of people. That's 4 kids and 3 adults. How did you get to the park?
We split up. The kids, I don't exactly remember, 1 or 2 kids were with me in the truck, and my wife and sister were in my wife's car, and the other kids as well.
What did you do at the park? How long were you there?
We play with the kids, walk around, play with the kids, and we were there for maybe an hour, hour and a half.
Okay. And what happened when you got home? Where did you park when you got back? So you're seeing on the screen, there's a, zoom out. On the screen, does that look like a map of the Aurora Views apartments?
Yes,
And is this the entrance to the apartments here?
correct.
And 806, that would be over here, is that right?
Yes,
And 808 is here?
correct.
And where did you park?
In front of our building, in front of the stairs, probably 1 parking to the left.
Right around in here?
Maybe the next one.
Okay, let me show you the photographs. Does that look familiar to you?
Yes,
Is that the apartment building where you lived?
yes, the one next door on the top.
And do you see your car in that, or your truck in that?
Yes, my truck is the gray one that has a tire in the back, and my wife's car was the Nissan Altima.
The Nissan Altima, is that this one here?
Correct.
Do you see a gold car next to yours?
Yes, next to my truck.
Yes.
Yes,
Whose car is that?
that's Michelle's.
Now, all 3 of these cars, the Altima, your truck, and Michelle's car, is that where they were parked on that night?
Correct.
So when you pulled into that parking space, what did you notice?
I noticed that they were playing loud music.
They meaning who?
Fabian was on the driver's side, and Michelle was on the passenger side.
Okay. So they were playing that loud music. Did they have their windows rolled down?
Yes, they had their windows down.
Okay. And what else did you notice?
Like I said, they were playing loud music. They were dancing inside the car. It seemed like they were drinking something. Couldn't really tell what it was, but they were drinking something. Was a glass bottle. Yeah.
A glass bottle. What kind of shape was it?
It looked like the shape of either like a beer bottle. Couldn't really tell because I had my window, the passenger side, my window was up, and it's a tinted window.
Okay. Did you hear them say anything at that time?
When we parked, at that moment, no.
Well, what else did you see other than them in their car with the loud music? Who else did you see that night?
I remember that minute when we parked, we were still in the cars, probably for around 5 minutes. We were still in the cars, and then I noticed that Jessica was coming down the stairs.
Was this the same person you saw standing outside of apartment 808 earlier?
Correct.
Okay. She was coming down the stairs, and what else did you see?
She was carrying a girl. You could tell it was a kid.
And did you just held your arms out like cradling?
Yeah, she had her facing her body. The person's facing her like that. She was carrying her like that way.
So cradled but sort of upward?
Correct.
And how could you tell that it was a girl?
Because of the hair that was hanging.
Okay. Could you see her face?
No.
Could you see any other part of her body?
Her feet were hanging because the way she was carrying her.
Okay. And how was she clothed? Or could you see any clothes?
No. I couldn't remember.
Was she wrapped in anything?
I don't. I want to say yes, that she was covered with something. I couldn't tell if it was a towel or a blanket.
And you saw her, that would be coming down these stairs over here?
Correct.
So how far down the stairs did she get?
Before halfway.
Halfway?
A little bit before halfway, I want to say.
Before halfway. So there's a little landing there. Did she
Yeah.
get to the landing?
I don't remember.
What did she do at that point?
She looked like she was struggling, coming down, carrying whoever she was carrying. She was, seemed like she could have fallen down, but she was holding herself not to fall. She was having trouble walking.
Did it look like whoever she was carrying, it was too heavy for her?
I want to say because of the stairs coming down.
Okay. And did she say anything?
Yes, I remember she screamed or yelled. She said, "Are you ready?" And we don't know who she was talking to, but I remember Fabian responding, "No, not yet." So Jessica turned around as she managed to do it and went back upstairs.
And you said you weren't sure who she was talking to. Who did she direct that to? Who was she looking at?
Well, I'm guessing she was coming down the stairs and Michelle's car was there and Fabian responded. So I'm assuming that was talking to him or...
Okay. And so what did she do after that?
like I said, she went back to the Michelle's apartment.
Okay. Did she go all the way inside?
Yes,
And did she take the person she was carrying with her?
correct.
And what did the defendant and Michelle do at that point?
Like I said, they were still dancing and seemed like they were drinking something.
Did you see how long they were in the car?
No, because after what we saw with Jessica coming down, I told my wife and my sister-in-law, let's just go upstairs because we don't want no trouble. So we decided just to go back to our apartment.
Okay. You said that you didn't want any trouble. Did you think there was trouble?
Meaning because they were drinking.
Did you see Jessica again?
Yes, when we were going upstairs, she, for some reason, I noticed that she was again on the stairs, and it was my wife. I remember how the order was, if it was my wife or my sister-in-law that were going upstairs with the kids, and I was carrying my son, the little one. I was carrying him, and she moved so I could pass, and we didn't say anything, so we went inside the apartment.
Did you see where she went?
No.
She was going down the stairs.
Yeah, she was just standing by the stairs.
Okay. And how far up the stairs were you when you passed her?
I want to say 3 or 4 steps from coming down the apartment.
Okay, so almost toward the top.
Yeah, almost to the top, correct.
And did you go inside at that point?
Yes,
Did you stay inside?
yes. We gave the kids a bath and a shower, and then that's it.
At some point later that night, did you go outside?
Yes, I ended up going again for a couple of seconds because my wife had a flat tire, so I was looking for tires on the internet, so I had to go downstairs to the car to get the size of the tire. Just went downstairs, got the size, and went back upstairs right away.
Do you know what time that was? Roughly?
No, I don't remember. I want to say it was between 10:30 and 11.
Did you see anything?
No,
Did you hear anything?
no.
Now, earlier when you saw Jessica Kelly on the stairs, do you know what time that was?
The first time?
No, not the first time, when she was carrying.
Yeah, when she was carrying the person. Yes, I specifically remember it was 8:45
Okay, how do you specifically remember that?
because I used to have a couple of games on my phone, and then the phone sends you notification when there's something on the game. So I remember that I grabbed my phone, there was a notification from a game, and that's why I remember the time.
Did you hear anything else that night or see anything else that night?
After we went to bed and fall asleep.
After you were asleep?
Uh,
So would it be the next morning?
yeah, it might be the next morning, middle of the night, if we can call it that. I remember a woman screaming, and that's what woke me up.
So you said a woman was screaming. Do you know, was she saying anything or was it just a scream?
I remember her voice, and it was Michelle screaming, saying, "Stop, stop," and that's what woke me up.
Okay. Did you hear any voice in response to that?
No, I only heard her voice asking to whom to stop.
Okay. And where was this coming from? So were you in bed at the time?
Yes, I was in bed, and I heard the screams, and I got up and I ran into the living room thinking somebody had broken into our apartment because my sister-in-law was staying in the living room.
Okay, so you weren't sure where the screams were coming from?
No, and then after when I went to check in the living room, we realized it was the neighbor from Michelle's apartment.
Okay, how did you realize that?
Because we had our window open, and I don't remember if we had our balcony door a little bit open. I remember our window was open.
Okay. Did you continue to hear any noises from the apartment next door?
Yes, we heard, I heard, it sounded like running, and the other part on Michelle's. First, it sounded like they were close to our wall, and then you could hear the steps getting further, and then like disappearing, and then eventually, again, you could hear the steps far away, and then getting closer to our wall.
Okay. Did you hear anything other than steps?
Uh,
Running?
That's what I'm trying to say. It sounded like running, and sounded like they were maybe fighting because of the banging on the walls as well.
Okay, and how long did that go on?
I don't exactly remember for how long, but I do remember there were moments when it was a chaos, the running and the banging on the walls, and then it would stop for a little bit, for 5-10 minutes, and then it would start it again.
So you said it started and stopped. How many times did it start and stop?
I want to say probably 2 or 3 times, maybe even more, I don't remember.
And then what did you hear after the fighting?
After everything stopped, I remember a little later side of Michelle's door, and then it looked like she opened the door, and we ran into my kid's bedroom because we have a window, and we could see the grass area, the cars, and a little bit of the stairs. So it was Michelle on the stairs on the middle.
Okay. And did you see anyone else out there with Michelle?
Yes, Fabian. Fabian was outside.
And where was he?
He was in the grass area. We could see him through our window. We saw him through the window.
Okay, did they say anything?
I remember Michelle telling Fabian, screaming or yelling, telling to him, I think she killed her, or I think she killed her, one of those.
Okay. And was there any response from Fabian?
Yes, he responded, it's okay, babe, let's just go. And then Michelle went downstairs and was with him.
Okay. So they were together, standing there?
Yes, and then they walked away. I don't know where they end up going.
Okay. So if you're looking out the bedroom window from your kid's window, basically, right? Did they go to the right or did they go to the left?
So the window was right here. The truck was on this side, so they end up going to the left side, to my left side.
So if we look at this photograph,
So,
is this the window that you were looking out of?
correct.
Okay. And you said they went which direction?
Towards the white truck.
Over here?
Yeah, they went that way because we couldn't see them after that.
Did you hear them say anything else?
No.
Did you see them try to go back up the stairs?
No.
Remember me having them?
You may.
You want to state or pass the witness?
Okay, cross-examination.
Mr. Rojas Acevedo. Christina is your common-law wife, and you have 2 children together, correct?
Yes.
And her sister was also staying, and her 2 children. So you had 4 children that night in the house.
The apartment? Yes.
In the apartment. Now, that day was the first time that you saw who we know as Jessica in Michelle's apartment. That was the first time that you saw her.
Correct.
Okay. And you said hello to each other when you crossed paths there. Is that right?
Yeah.
And Jessica seemed normal at the time, other than, well, who's she? She didn't really belong there, but she seemed normal, didn't she?
Couldn't really specify what's normal. Like I said, she only said hi, and I responded hi, and took a second, and then went inside the apartment.
All right, now, your wife Christina and her sister went to the store for an hour and a half. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you stayed home with the kids when they went to the store.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, did you see any stranger go into Michelle's apartment other than this woman before Fabian and she were in the car?
No.
Now, when they arrived in the car, were they first and then your truck, or was your truck first and then their car? Remember who parked first?
We're talking about when they...
The loud music and everything?
my wife, and then I arrived A minute later, or less than a minute.
So your wife first and then you.
Yes.
How about Fabian and Michelle? Were they already parked as
Yes.
you were pulling in?
They were already parked.
And they were listening to all kinds of music.
Correct.
And you saw what might have been a beer bottle that they were drinking.
Correct.
And that's when you saw the lady coming down the stairs with Victoria.
We don't know if it was Victor at that time.
But it looked like maybe a girl because of her long hair.
Yes, but I wasn't sure. I didn't know if it was Victoria. Couldn't really tell. Couldn't really see her face.
All right. And the little girl looked like she was asleep, didn't she?
Correct.
Jessica yelled, "Are you ready?" And Fabian said, "No, not yet."
Correct.
So she turned around, the woman, and brought the little girl back inside the apartment, didn't she?
Correct.
And for you, now before that, I should point out, she struggled a little bit as she was holding that child.
She was coming down the stairs. Yes.
Yeah, before that exchange, she kind of struggled holding the child, having trouble keeping the child in her arms.
Correct.
Now, when she went back inside, you thought she was putting the little girl to sleep.
I never said that. I thought she was putting her to sleep. I said that she put her inside. She went inside the apartment.
Right, but at the time, what did you think was going on?
I wasn't really. I was more concerned about my kids, my wife going upstairs and giving them a shower and a bath.
So your attention was focused on
My family, yes.
getting your kids into the house and getting them showered and getting them to
Correct.
sleep themselves. Now, as you were going upstairs with your kids, getting ready for the bath, you crossed that woman one more time, didn't you?
Yes.
And the only concern you had was that, we've got two adults drinking, and that was the one concern you had at that moment, would you say?
Yes.
Okay. And you had no reason to believe Victoria was dead when you last saw her.
No, like I said, I wasn't sure who it was.
Now, you went out again to, later that night, I want to say 10 o'clock, to look at the size of the flat tire so that you could order the right tire, correct?
Between 10 and 11.
10 to 11.
Correct.
And it was quiet, you didn't hear anything, did you?
Correct.
Now, if we fast forward to, I think it was 3:40, you heard a woman say, "Stop, stop, that's enough." Is that true?
Yes.
Now, you couldn't hear what Fabian was saying because they had the TV on. Do you remember that?
I don't remember they had the TV on. Just remember Michelle screaming.
Do you remember giving a statement in 2017 to a pre-trial statement where there were some lawyers and people talking? Do you remember that one?
I remember talking to them, but I don't remember specifically what I said, because it's been, 5-6 years that happened? So
It's
my
been
mom.
a long time.
Yes, correct.
Well, do you remember page 20? I guess they had the TV on. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, so does that kind of restore?
A little bit, yes.
All right, and so whatever was said beyond the woman saying stop, stop, you couldn't hear because of the TV.
Correct.
Now that TV was not on when you went out at 10 o'clock, was it?
Uh,
Or you didn't hear it?
I didn't hear it. I didn't pay attention.
Okay. Now this time at 3:40, you heard hitting walls. It sounded like there was some sort of fight going on in the other
Correct,
apartment.
something was going on.
And at first you weren't sure where it was coming from. I mean, you even thought it might be a burglar in your apartment until you figured out, okay, it's the next apartment over.
Correct.
And there was at least one or more, I believe you said, where there's all this commotion and then it dies down for a little bit. It stops, and then there's commotion again. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Now, the next thing you remember is Michelle opening the front door of the apartment next to your apartment. Is that right?
Correct.
And that would be, she's coming out of her front door right
Mhm.
there, and you're over in this apartment.
Correct.
And she's gotten to the middle of the stairs saying, "Oh my God, I think she effing killed her." Something,
Yeah, or less or more, yeah, something.
that's close to what she said.
Correct.
How would you describe how she said that? I mean, loud or soft, fast or slow?
Sounded pretty scared.
Scared.
Yes.
And where?
Took off walking. I don't know where they end up going after that.
Do you know if they went this way or that way?
Well, the other way next to the compass.
So were they going this way?
Correct.
And did you hear them banging on neighbor doors?
I want to say yes, but I don't exactly remember now. But I think I could hear them knocking on neighbors. Don't exactly remember.
Okay, and you remember on page 11, you said something like that 5 years ago.
Okay.
They were banging on neighbor doors.
Okay.
Does that sound like you may have forgotten or
Like I said, it's been many years, so it's kind of hard to remember every detail.
Now, a minute later, the fire alarm started making noise, didn't it?
Yes.
And did you smell anything?
Yes. I cannot describe or tell what the smell was, but it was something I have never smelled before in my life.
Did you see that woman that you had crossed paths with? Did you see her after you're hearing you're smelling something and you're hearing the fire alarm? Did you see that woman?
At that specific moment, that time,
Well, at some point there, when do you see her?
after the cops arrived,
Okay, so the police come first and then you see the woman.
yes,
Where did you see the woman?
she was coming the side from the left side, from the left side. I want to say,
Was she coming this way?
yes, she came out from that, I don't know if from the grass area or from the sidewalk.
Okay. Somewhere over there, and she was headed in this direction, from left to right.
Yes.
Do you remember what she said to the police?
I don't exactly remember what she was saying to the police.
Do you remember her saying, "You got the wrong person, it's not me, I didn't do it"?
I don't remember if that's were her exactly words.
What do you remember?
I just remember cops running around. One of them run inside the Michelle's door, and he was yelling, "Just Kelly, open the door, just Kelly, open the door." And I guess nobody responded, so he managed to break into the apartment. And after he was, I want to say minutes, I don't remember how much time he was inside, maybe long, maybe little time, but he managed to turn off the fire alarm.
Okay. Now, help us a little bit. When is she coming around the apartment in relation to them busting through the apartment? Which happened first, and how would you put those two
I want to
together?
say the first cop that went inside, that was yelling, saying, "Just Kelly, open the door." When he was, you could hear, we never opened the door, so we could hear the officer screaming, and not sure if he kicked the door or how did he manage to break into the apartment. But there were already a little bit cops in the area, so I want to say that happened first, and minutes later, Jessica was walking.
Okay, so they got through the front door, and minutes later you see her coming around the apartment.
Correct.
And do you remember what she said or anything of it?
At this point, no, I don't remember. Like I said, there was too much going on, too much cops and
That's all I have. Thank you.
okay.
Correct?
Ms. Rojas. Mr. Rojas, Mr. Aarons just asked you about a page of a transcript for an interview that you gave a few years ago. Do you remember specifically what was said during that interview? Like the exact words? Do you remember?
No.
If you saw a page of that transcript, would that refresh your recollection?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
If you saw a page of that transcript, would that refresh your recollection?
Maybe it will.
And approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Just read that to yourself, please, and see if that helps you remember. So the part about saying that TV was on, do you remember what question that was in response to?
Yes. I could hear him talking, Fabian, but I couldn't pay attention, meaning I couldn't understand what he was saying or talking to. It heard like little mumbling. They were talking maybe slow or quiet.
Mumbling, so you said talking quiet?
Yeah, so I couldn't really understand what they were saying.
And the question was about what you heard at the time of the screaming, is that right?
Correct.
And you said there was a TV on?
Yes, I remember, yes.
Mr. Rojas, does this look like the diagram of the apartment that you were living in and the same floor plan that Michelle Martens had at the time? With the entryway here, the master bedroom over here, living room, kitchen. Does that look about right?
In my apartment or their apartment?
Their apartment.
Yes.
Okay. And so if their master bedroom is here, where is your apartment in relation to that?
I'm guessing their wall was our apartment.
So your apartment's right over here,
Yes, I believe so.
and you heard a TV on that wall. Is that right?
I couldn't actually remember where the TV was coming from or
Was the TV louder than the screen or softer than the screen?
I would say it was a little bit softer than screams. The scream, the yelling was more.
And was the TV louder than the mumbling or softer than the mumbling?
It wasn't loud, but it wasn't quiet as well.
Now, if they're on a typical night, if Michelle were watching TV in her living room, would you be able to hear that TV?
If it was everything quiet and she had maybe a little bit loud, and if I had my TV off, maybe I could have.
Okay, do you know if that would have been her living room TV or her bedroom TV?
I think it was her living room.
Okay. And here, when you heard the TV from over here, could you tell where the TV was?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor?
All right, thank you. May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down. Jury, do you need a break? Anyone need a break? No? Okay.
Your Honor, this table called Michael Jarvis to the stand.
Michael Alexander Jarvis II.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jarvis. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Mr. Jarvis, tell us where you work now.
Currently, I work for Lobos Biomedical.
What do you do there?
I am a senior research technologist.
And back in 2016, where did you work?
I worked for the Office of the Medical Investigator.
What was your role there?
I was a senior morphological technician.
What is a senior morphological technician?
I was one of the senior technicians that assisted the pathologist in performing autopsies.
And when you say assist, what types of things did you do in autopsy?
Anything from moving the body, helping perform the evisceration, log and track evidence, maintain chains of custody, take photographs, things of that nature.
Whatever the doctor asks you to help with?
Pretty much, yes.
And how long were you with the office of the medical examiner?
About 5 years.
And how many autopsies do you think that you assisted with?
Anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 autopsies.
And in August of 2016, you were working there?
Yes.
And you were working August, the 25th and 26th for the autopsy of Victoria Martens?
Yes, I was there for both days.
Were you present the entire time?
Yes.
From the time her body bag was opened through the completion?
Correct, yes.
Were there other morphology techs assisting?
Yes.
And how were you the lead?
Yes, I was the lead tech. They were there to just assist because there were so many moving parts, a lot of evidence we collected.
Was this a fairly complicated autopsy?
Yes, it was.
And did those other techs do any work outside of your site or direction?
No.
Mr. Jarvis, tell us just generally about protocols that were in place at the Office of the Medical Examiner to ensure that there's no contamination of a body. Tell us about how, like after an autopsy is complete, how the area is cleaned before the next person arrives.
At the end of the day, after an autopsy is completed, the entire room is cleaned, table, basically taken apart, cleaned, sanitized, top to bottom, whole floor wiped down, cleaned, mopped. So that when you're done, it's a sanitized area. Before you start the next day, you will also verify that everything is sterile, sanitized, before you would open the body bag or potentially contaminate anything. You verify everything is sterile beforehand as well.
What about the instruments used?
All instruments are sterilized, same process at the end of a case and before the start of the case.
What about yourself? How do you and other people in the autopsy suite make sure that you don't bring a contaminant in?
You would wear scrubs that were only meant to be worn inside the autopsy suite, while also wearing personal protective equipment that was brand new, fresh, clean equipment that was mostly disposable. And if at any point you did have contaminant on you, you would discard it and then reapply new PPE.
Did you scrub in too?
Yes, you would have to make sure they were clean, not sterile as for like a surgery, but
You scrub in and then you're putting the protective gear over your clean hands.
yes.
Now, you said that this was a 2-day autopsy. What happens to the patient when you have to break and go home to sleep for the night? How do you move the patient and where do they go?
For the decedent themselves, they were placed into their body bag, verified that it was the correct decedent by 2 people, closed, sealed, taped shut, and then sealed with a body bag sticker that was signed off by 2 people that would prevent the bag being opened and tampered with.
And then the next day, when you bring the patient out, you verify all those things are intact? And
Yes.
the way it was the night before?
Yes.
During Victoria Martens' autopsy, was DNA collected from her?
Yes.
And is there a standard set of swabs, just like a standard set that you typically take in a run-of-the-mill sounds terrible, but in a typical autopsy?
In a typical homicide autopsy like this, yes, you would take oral, anal, and genital swabs.
And in this case, were more swabs than that taken?
Yes.
Who made that decision to take additional swabs?
The pathologist,
Do you remember the pathologist's name?
Dr. Kane and Dr. Ashkendrick.
Just generally, before we get to the individual swabs that were taken, when you designate an area that needs to be swabbed, walk us through the process of what you do and how you obtain those swabs.
Well, it was the pathologist that would determine where a swab needs to be done, and the pathologist that would actually take the swab sample themselves. They would, depending on the doctor's preference, take a dry or wet swab. Usually both, but up to the pathologist whether to do the dry or wet first. And the only difference is that the swab would be, have some sterile saline placed on the swab before collection.
And is that, what's the purpose of the saline, just to help collect?
Just to help collect more evidence.
And so, which one goes first, or does it matter?
It's up to the pathologist's discretion. Typically, in my experience, it was the dry swab first and then the wet swab.
So during Victoria's autopsy, just to get through the procedure of it, when swabs were taken by the pathologist, what happens to how do they do it, and what happens to the actual sample that's on the little, I'm assuming it's one of those Q-tip little
Yeah, it's a
sticks?
one-sided long Q-tip. The doctor would take the sample, turn to the technician, who would have a piece of sterile gauze, place it inside the tip of the Q-tip in the gauze. That would be wrapped up. Then that would be placed inside the evidence envelope. Then that would be sealed, a label would be placed on it, and then stapled shut.
May I first witness, Roman?
You may.
I'm going to hand you what's just been marked for identification as dates 309 through 311. Do you recognize these photos?
Yes.
And what are these photos of?
These photos are of the sealed evidence envelopes containing the swabs and other evidence collected.
And this is from Victoria Martens' autopsy?
Yes.
And they're a little small, but do you see Dr. Ashkendrick's initials on these envelopes?
Yes.
Can you see your own initials on these envelopes?
Yes.
So these are the swabs that you took during that autopsy?
Yes, that is correct.
Your Honor, I move for omission of states 309 through 311.
No objection.
309 through 311 will be admitted.
May I publish?
You may.
So just to show the jury what we're talking about, these are the envelopes that contain what you've just described, right? So they're
Yes.
put into the individual bags and then into these, and this is where everybody's signature and labels are.
Yes.
During Victoria's autopsy, was other types of evidence aside from DNA collected?
Yes, there was different trace evidence, things like that.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to show you 312 and 313. Do you recognize these two pictures?
Yes.
And what are these pictures of?
313 is appears to be the envelope that I believe contains the fingerprints.
And what about 312?
And 312 is the bag in which the shirt was saved from the autopsy.
Your Honor, I move for omission of states 312 and 313.
No objection.
312 and 313 will be admitted.
So during Victoria's autopsy, in addition to swabs, she had a shirt, and
Yes.
that was placed in evidence. I'm going to show you published 312. We can see this. Is this the label from the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
And then 313, this says prints. What are prints? What are we talking about?
The fingerprints.
There were some other items collected. Do you recall a sheet or something wrapped on her body?
Yes.
And that was collected the same way these were
Yes,
tagged?
same process.
Did you also collect her fingernails
Yes.
and toenails?
Yes.
Did you get a blood sample or a blood card?
Yes.
What is that? What is a blood card?
It is just a blood sample card so that it can be collected and stored and then potentially processed later.
Is it like just drops of blood? How does that work?
It's just a sheet of paper with drops of blood placed on it in a designated location on the card.
Was a vitreous sample collected?
Yes.
What is that?
That is the fluid inside the eye.
Were there some hairs?
Yes, different hair samples were collected.
And when we're talking about hairs, are we talking about her hairs on her head or hairs that just were found on her body?
I believe there was both collected. There was trace evidence of hairs on her, including, then there was also the scalp hair sample collection. That would be her hair. And then also pubic combing and pubic hair collected.
And then at the doctor, the pathologist's discretion, were some tissue samples collected as well?
Yes.
Your Honor, if I may have the witness come down from the stand so we can.
Sure, you may step down.
All right.
Take that mic with you. You could attach it to your pants, put it in your pocket.
Wheel this over here. You'll just hop down and come over, just kind of right in front of where you're sitting. I think that's the best spot, so come on up here. I'm gonna put this back where you were. Let me scoot you. So I have what's been marked as states 314. This is just a simple body outline. You know, it's not the fanciest, but Mr. Jarvis, if you could walk the jury through, because we talked about how there's a standard set of DNA swabs, and in this case, many more were taken. So I'm going to give you this sheet of stickers, and if you could just walk the jury through from the front of her, and then we'll do the back of her, where you collected samples, wet and dry DNA swabs from Ms. Martens.
All right. First we did the oral samples, vaginal samples. We did both hands. And on her front, we had also done her left thigh. Additionally, we did her neck, chest, and abdomen.
Okay. Why not the other thigh?
It was up to the doctor's discretion.
Do you remember that, like having an injury?
I don't recall exactly the reason for that swab particularly.
Walk us through the samples from the back of her body, please.
On the back, we had part of the standard set of the anal swabs.
Is that going to be 315?
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. Yes, it's been marked for identification as 315.
And then we had also done upper back, middle back, and lower back.
Thank you. Is that all of them that you recall?
Yes, that is all that I recall.
All right, I'll let you sit back down. Thank you so much. I'm going to break everything in here and take these down. Did you take any photos during this autopsy?
Yes.
Did you take all of them yourself?
No, I did not take all of them.
How many of them did you take?
I would say roughly half.
And all of these samples, the ones we have photos of, and all of the ones we discussed, they were all collected and then turned over to the Albuquerque Police Department?
Yes.
Can we have a moment here? Your Honor, at this time, the state would move for admission of what's been marked as 314 and 315.
No objection.
314 and 315 will be admitted.
And we'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross.
Mrs. Jarvis, when Victoria arrived at OMI, was she wearing a red shirt?
To my recollection, yes.
And no pajamas or nothing
recall.
If I showed you a picture of the red shirt, do you think you might recognize it?
I'm unsure. This was a while ago.
If I may approach with Exhibit J and ask if this accurately depicts what she was wearing when you saw her.
Well, I couldn't say for certain. Like I said, it was years ago, I know.
Okay. Now, you talked about sanitizing the room after the last autopsy and the next morning when you're getting ready for another autopsy. Is that right?
Correct.
And you also wear scrubs and gloves and protective gear.
Correct.
And that's to prevent contamination of evidence. Is that right?
To protect the employee and prevent contamination, yes.
One of the dangers is you could transfer DNA or tissue if you don't do all of those things.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, may the witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, you may step down.
Thank you very much.
Next witness?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure. At the end of the day. So instead of keeping you around, I'm going to go ahead and release you for the day and bring you back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right? talk about the defendant's material witness motion. So it looks like the two witnesses are Tasha Miller and Diane Del Santos.
Yes,